All right, it's showtime. It's a Wednesday night. It's 8:30. It's like 8:32. What are you gonna do? A couple minutes behind, but I mean that's what happens. I mean, have you ever been to a concert that actually started on time? No. All the best ones make you wait a little while. You're lucky we didn't make you wait as long as a lot of. Oh, geez. There. Can you hear me better now? Could you hear me at all before? I don't know. I just started talking and realized microphone wasn't plugged in. That's good stuff. That's so hopefully it's working now. Yeah, let's get restarted on this show here. All right. Hopefully everything's set now. Doesn't look like anyone's attending this live stream, but hopefully you guys will come rolling in and we'll get started here. It's a live Panther-Lair show here on a Wednesday night, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, where we do lots of Pitt video things. You know, we have morning Pitt videos every day of the week, Monday through Friday, a little bit of Pitt conversation to get your day started. We have this weekly live stream every Wednesday night at 8:30. And sometimes it actually starts at 8:30. Sometimes it starts a couple minutes later. Sometimes it starts a couple of minutes later, and my microphone's not plugged in, but that might have been tonight. We have all kinds of video content out of training camp, practice highlights, interviews, press conferences, and all kinds of things. Everything you need as far as video content coming out of Pitt training camp, you can find at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. So make sure you like this video and subscribe, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com, and then check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get all your Pitt sports coverage, everything out of training camp, moving through into really the last week and a half or so of camp. I mean, they have the rest of this week. They have a scrimmage on the weekend and then one full week of camp before they dive into the game prep, regular game week to go to Kent State or to go into the Kent State game. So you got a week and a half left of training camp and you want to make sure you're up on all the stories and news and everything that's coming out of camp. You got to stay tuned at Panther-Lair.com, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com to get all of the Pitt sports coverage. Go check that out, Panther-Lair.com. We've had a lot of stories to discuss on there this week, a lot coming out of our coverage and stuff with the quarterbacks and all kinds of things. And you don't want to miss it because it's not going to slow down here for the rest of this week and into next week in the final week of training camp. All right, let's bring Jim in, see if his microphone is plugged in. Jim, oh, I didn't get the screen set. Now, you were there when I started this live stream. Could you hear me talking even when my microphone wasn't plugged in?
Yeah, I think your headphone microphone was. That's what. Yeah, so you sounded fine.
Did one sound better than the other?
I don't know.
Like if I'm talking right now I'm talking through my microphone, and then now I've unplugged my microphone. You can still hear me, right?
I can hear you. I don't know how it would show up on the live stream, but like just you and me talking right here, you sound fine.
I presume you are hearing what the people are hearing. You know what I mean? I would think that you're getting the same audio feed, but it doesn't change any. So, I mean, I have this, I'm going to plug it back in. Nothing changes when I do that?
Not a whole lot. I mean, I don't have a microphone. I think I sound okay.
Oh, you know what? It's because it wasn't plugged. All right. Now does it sound any different?
It does sound different now.
Okay. See, it was going through my headphone the whole time. Even after I plugged the microphone in, it wasn't changed to, I had to change the setting. So does it sound better now, or did it sound better before when I was on the headphone?
I think it sounds better. The real question is, was your microphone plugged in when you were on TV today?
On TV today, I just
that,
yeah.
And you sounded fine.
I thought it would look weird if I showed up like this. Like, who the hell is this guy? Like, thinks he's like Howard Stern or something with his big microphone. Like, I don't know. You don't see that on TV. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I feel like when you see the talking head interviews, you see a lot more people with earbuds in. You know what I mean? Like, this has become very common to have like the earbuds, but not like an actual microphone in front of you. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It kind of like, I like having the microphone. I think it looks, I don't know, cooler, I guess. As opposed to like if I just did the morning Pitt just like this every time.
Yeah, the microphone looks more. Maybe I'll get one.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even have to plug it in. Apparently, like I could just have it sit here, just as like a prop. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, all right. Well, good. I'm glad we got that settled. And thanks for tuning in on the ACC network. That was, interesting. I don't know. Were you watching that whole broadcast like before I went on, like at 4:00 when Packer and Luganville first started talking?
When did you go on? About 4:15?
Yeah.
I was still like writing stuff about Malachi Thomas at that point, so
Yeah.
I tuned in right whenever you got on camera.
Okay. So before I started, they're like when they opened the show at 4:00, because so the lead in, I think 1 to 4 was a replay of the Pitt Boston College game from last year, which I watched the final like 15 minutes of that, and I forgot that like the final 90 seconds took about 10 minutes because they lined up to punt. Boston College jumped offside. They lined up to punt again and punted, but they had 2 number 2s on the field. Kenny Johnson and David Green were both on the field for Pitt. So Boston College took the ball with a 5-yard penalty. They ran like 3 plays, and then on 3rd down, I think it was, Castellanos threw the ball but was over the line of scrimmage. So it was a penalty. They pushed them back. They were just about to snap for 4th down, but Narduzzi calls a timeout. But before the timeout, they actually called for a review. It just took forever. It was interminable until finally Castellanos threw the football on 4th down and MJ Devonshire picked it up. It took forever. But anyway, so I watched the end of that, and then they start the show at 4:00, and it's Mark Packer and Tom Luganville, and they're talking about the ACC, and they're talking about ACC quarterbacks. And Luganville's top 5 quarterbacks in the ACC, Cam Ward from Miami, Haynes King from Georgia Tech, Grayson McCall, the transfer to NC State, Kyron Drones to Virginia Tech, and Castellanos, actually. He had him 5th. But as they're talking about quarterbacks, and they're talking about DJU and Tyler Shugg and Klubnik and McCord and all these guys, Luganville says, like, here's one of my, like, I forget how he called it, either hot take or sleeper or something like that. And he throws out an Eli Holstein drop of, like, I am making, like, a prediction. I forget exactly how he termed it. But he said, I'm predicting that Eli Holstein is going to win that job. And I forget if he went so far as to say he would be one of the top quarterbacks in the ACC. I don't think he was saying he would put him in his top 5, but he's got expectations that Eli Holstein is going to win the job and move into, be one of the better quarterbacks in the conference. So how about that? Like here, I thought it was just sort of contained a little bit to our little corner of the world, mostly on the message boards. I'm not sure if anybody else is really talking about it right now outside of like, I think we've been sort of spreading the conversation of Eli Holstein pushing Nate Yarnell and the quarterback competition really kind of coming into focus, or not coming into focus, but heating up. But apparently maybe some more getting out nationally. And then, you have to take this with the knowledge and the context that like ACC network guys were at Pitt yesterday and today, right? Like Wes Durham was there, and who else was there with him?
Rodney Jones and EJ Manuel.
Okay, so those guys are all there. They're at Pitt. They're watching practice, and they're talking to the Pitt coaches. Inevitably, they're going to be in contact with like Mark Packer and Tom Luganville and these guys. You and I have been picking up our own information on this. We have our own thoughts on it. What do you think about it now starting to get a little bit of national play that Eli Holstein really could take this job from Nate Yarnell?
Well, like considering the source, like Luganville obviously works for ESPN, and ESPN has their own recruiting website, different than ours. And I went back and looked just now, and Eli Holstein was the 29th ranked player nationally, according to ESPN. Like that's basically in Rivals terms, that's like 5-star status. So obviously Luganville was higher on him than most. And I also happen to look, the 28th ranked player that year was Hakeem Williams, an old friend there. So,
hey,
yeah, it all comes full circle. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
I'll look that up, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the ACC, road trip, afterwards. I was like, just kind of seeing like what they got to see more than I saw today. And I mean, EJ Manuel's a former quarterback for Florida State, and he was talking, and he even said he's still leaning towards Yarnell, but he also said it is very much an open competition. So I mean, I think that's kind of the word being spread. And we even got a chance to talk to Durham. Had a quick interview session with him, and he said, a lot of these ACC programs we're going around to, it's window dressing. Like we know who the starter's going to be, but they're saying it's a competition, kind of like in the same sense of last year or 2 years ago with Pitt. He said this one it feels different. He does kind of get the sense that it is a real competition and it's not settled. So I don't know. I know Manuel was advocating for coming to a decision soon, just so the starting quarterback has 2 weeks to, be that voice in the huddle and be the main guy at quarterback. But we've also thought that there's a decent chance that both of them play in the opener. I'm still not sure what's going to happen there, but as of right now, it's open. And yeah, I mean, I think things happened at the scrimmage. I think both quarterbacks looked well. It's just, I don't think it's anything Yarnell's doing. I think Eli Holstein's just playing really well right now.
Yeah, I think so too. And I keep kind of, we've talked so much this offseason about Nate Yarnell and efficiency, and he gets the ball to the receivers. And I think that's big. It's very important for Pat Narduzzi. It's important for all coaches, taking care of the football, getting the ball to the receivers and all that. But I'm starting to wonder if that's not enough. You know what I mean? That okay, that's the baseline. You guys have to be there. You can't turn the ball over, but that they want then that next step of taking over games, of carrying the teams. And I wonder if that's what they're looking for out of Eli Holstein. We've seen that Nate Yarnell can do the baseline, right? 1 interception in 76 attempts over the course of his career, 68%, 69% completion percentage as a starter. Very efficient, not necessarily a ton of yards per attempt. Not really, he had the big pass to, who was it, Konate Mumfield in the Notre Dame game, I think, maybe the first ball he threw or the second ball he threw or something in that game.
Yeah, he did.
Did he come in and heft one down the field?
It was Kylan Johnson, I think. It was it was like a weird 48-yard completion to him.
Or wait, Carter Johnson, not Johnson. The linebacker. Yeah. No, yeah, I think it was, but his first drive was 2 passes, wasn't it? Didn't he have a pass to Johnson, a pass to Mumfield for and ended up with a touchdown out of it? But either way, we haven't really seen that from him. Now, has he been given an opportunity to open it up and to take over the offense and push things? Not necessarily. Certainly not in the Western Michigan game. And there was only so much of that could happen in Frank Cignetti's offense, I think, for the last 2 years. But maybe that's what they're looking for. The other element, too, is that Eli Holstein, as they've told us multiple times, was hurt a little bit in the spring. And now he's healthy. And it seems like the word is that he's healthy and now he's just turning it on. So when do you, and like you said, expect both quarterbacks to play in the Kent State game? How much do you think we get in terms of clarity this week, next week, and game week?
I mean, the second scrimmage of camp is kind of whenever you start to settle the depth chart. I mean, I think we saw a little bit of it this week. And even in my practice report, I said there's not many left. We kind of know who's starting. There's still a few out there. But I would say after this scrimmage, I don't know when they have practice next week. I don't know if we'll talk to them right on Monday or Tuesday. But yeah, I think it's Tuesday next week.
I think so, yeah.
So I expect to hear some sort of definitive, not a definitive, he's the starter, but maybe change the tune a little bit. Cause I was even walking around today and, we don't really get to ask who we can interview, but I was it'd be nice to hear from a quarterback, any quarterback. I'll talk to David Lynch, somebody it would just be nice to kind of hear from these two guys, the most important guys on the field, going through this battle. I get why they're being sheltered from the media. Cause they don't want one to say something about the other, but I don't know. I mean, I would think next week we'll start to have a little bit of an idea because it's starting to get real. I mean, next week's the last week of training camp and they don't even go all that crazy hard. I mean, I think Friday's a walkthrough. Then they go to the luncheon. So we're coming up on game prep week. And I think you want to have that voice. I kind of agree with EJ Manu. You want to have your starting offense together working for a whole week, probably 2 weeks, but I don't know. I don't know when it's actually going to come.
Yeah, I wonder too. I mean, so Nate Yarnell graduated, and if you graduate, you can kind of go into the portal at any time. You're not sort of bound by those transfer portal windows, I believe, because I think I remember graduates transferring mid-year. I don't know if that's a consideration. I'm not sure if it would really even make sense for him. Oh, I didn't get the job. I'm going to leave right now. Well, where are you going to go that you're going to play? You know what I mean? It's August 14th. You're kind of out of time on that. There is some thought on, I think you have to give some consideration to that. There could be something too with the rest of the team. I wonder if Pat Narduzzi felt a certain kind of way about what appeared to be the team sentiment in 2022 about Nick Patty versus Keaton Slovis and the guys, the returning players, they all like Nick and everything like that. I'm sure the returning guys have, they like Nate. But then at the same time, Narduzzi always says that, like, he shouldn't have to name a starter. It should be plainly obvious to everyone. So if Holstein really is head and shoulders above Yarnell, then it shouldn't come as a shock or upset anybody if he gets named. I think this scrimmage will go a long way in determining what happens. Like this scrimmage specifically, you know what I mean? Like more so than what happens over the next 3 days, more so than what happens next week. That doesn't mean Pat Narduzzi is going to tell us anything, but I think this scrimmage is the one, especially given what we've heard about this past scrimmage, where maybe the offense wasn't as good. I think this is a huge scrimmage for the quarterbacks and the offense as a whole, just to start getting some momentum in the right direction, because it doesn't seem like they have a lot of it right now.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions Narduzzi was asked today was about the center battle, and I think his answer was, we'll know more after Sunday. So I think Sunday is kind of like the date everyone's kind of circling, like, all right, we got to – and this scrimmage is going to be at Acrisure. I think the last one was in the South Side. So, the lights are going to be on. It's going to be a pretty serious environment down there, and, it'd be nice to sneak in there. But, I think we'll know a lot more, or they will know a lot more. The team will know a lot more coming out of it, and we'll be left to guess for a few days. But, it comes out here and there, bits and pieces. So, I think the kind of out of this scrimmage, it sounded like the offense struggled, but it also sounded like, the quarterbacks weren't turning the ball over. They were fine. It was just kind of more, off with their timing, I think, was kind of the whatever plagued the offense this weekend.
Yeah. Well, there were 2 interceptions, but it was weird because Pat Narduzzi almost sort of downplayed that. He was like, yeah, there were turnovers, but that wasn't really it. And he's usually all about how the turnovers are the difference in the scrimmage and all this stuff. And he kind of like downplayed it. Lots of comments and questions. I want to get into those. If you guys want to make sure we read your comment or your question, you could be a super chatter, click the little $sign down at the bottom, kick a couple bucks down to the podcast, and we'll make sure we get to it. But Jim, before we move on, and maybe we'll keep talking about quarterbacks because why wouldn't we? But open position jobs, and I think you wrote about this on Friday, right? In the 3-2-1 column, I think. Did you write about some of the open jobs? And you just said like there's not many left. What is it? Just quarterback and center? You think on offense? Do you feel like everything else is pretty well set on that side of the ball?
I
maybe
think
a receiver spot or
not even, because we talked about I asked him about the receivers, this week, and he kind of said we have 5 that we can play. So like I think we know who those 5 are. He was asked about the running backs. He's like the 2 obvious ones competing for the job, and also Derek Davis is doing well. We know what's going on at tight end. I think pretty much 4 of the offensive line spots we kind of know. The thing with the defense is like they rotate so much. So it's like I don't really like get too worked up like what's going on between Jordan Bass and like Rasheem Biles and Braylon Lovelace. Like they're all going to play. Same with like the defensive linemen. So I don't know. Maybe the second corner spot it has not been discussed as much. And maybe that's the other one. I think Rylan Gandy has pretty much locked up one job, and I don't know. I think you could look at Rashad Battle, Tamon Lynham, maybe some of those other guys that have been around the program for a while, like Noah Bigelow and Tamarian Crumpley. There's options there. So I don't think we've gotten anything definitive from the cornerback other than we think Rylan Gandy's a starter. So, but otherwise, I don't know. We just kind of went through everything, and it's like, you kind of know who's going to play for this team this year.
Yeah. You're right about the rotation. I kind of look at like D end. I think Nate Matlack will start, but I'm really not sure who starts opposite him. Would we guess Jimmy Scott?
I would, but like it could change. Like because just looking at the defense over the years, it was like, all right, Devin Danielson, you're starting this week. Tyler Bentley, you're starting. Like they just switch. They switch so much even within the season. So it's.
But that was at D tackle, and that was with guys who were all kind of the same guy. You know what I mean? When there was Kalijah Cansey started. When it was Patrick Jones and Rashad Weaver at end, they started. There wasn't that, and so there could be some of that this year. I was trying to think like the other day just about the defensive ends, right? So there's Matlack, there's Jimmy Scott, there's Chief Borders, and Sincere Edwards.
That's kind of been the 4.
Is that it? Like Maverick Gracio, I guess, if you want to throw, but I don't get, and David Ojebwe, but I don't get the sense that those 2. I feel like there's a separation there between like those 4, and then Those two, and then that's it, right? Is there somebody? Oh, I guess Zach Crothers.
Yeah.
But that's like it, right? As far as
that's it. So like, yeah, I wrote about the defensive ends last week. I was like, they're not really like competing to figure out who's in the 2 deep. They're kind of competing to see if they'll be any good this year. I mean, like that's kind of what the question is. Like we know who the 4 guys are. It's just a matter of like, are they going to step up and play better than the defensive ends played last year? I mean, we asked about true freshmen today, and like Sincere Edwards was, of course, like the first person he mentioned. So yeah, I mean, I can't really think of like defensive tackle seems competitive, like because you could make a case for almost like 6 guys that like you could talk yourself into like, okay, they could probably start.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but like I think we're both coming around. Like they're probably going to hit on a couple defensive tackles, but yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a ton of battles going into Sunday, but I think most of them should be settled by the end of Sunday.
Yeah. It was funny on that ACC network thing today. I think Lugabill asked me about Sincere Edwards, and he referred to him as a defensive tackle. And I was like, I said to be like, dude, they can't afford to move him. I know he's built like a D tackle. He looks like, but they can't move him inside because they don't have anybody else to play out there. They need him at defensive end. It's like they don't really have a choice in that way. He looks like he could be a D tackle. I think we talked about it at various points during his recruitment. Oh, he could be a guy who could move inside, but I mean, no, they can't afford to do that. And tackle, like, yeah, I mean, Sean Fitzsimmons, Anthony Johnson, Isaiah Neal. Any 2 of those 3 could start. Would you say there's a 4th guy in that? Do you feel like Nick James or Nikai Johnson are?
I think Nikai's close
in that group. Yeah,
I don't. There might be a separation. Like that might be the top 4. That's kind of my guess. But then you still have Nick James. You still like, and they're talking up the 2 freshmen. Like they're saying, like, I think the other day they said like Jasir Whittington was not 100%. They said like the other day he went off in some drills, and like Nate Matlack was like, "Whoa, like this guy's just as good as that guy." Like, like these 3 freshmen are really, really good. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, they have options at defensive tackle. They don't have options at defensive end.
Right. Well, there's a lot of questions here, but this one's just relevant to the conversation. Nico P says, is there a clear DT1 at the moment? So like, I think we're like pretty much locked in that Nate Matlack is going to be a starter at D end, right? Like we assume that. We're just not sure what the rest of the rotation is going to be. Is there a guy like that at defensive tackle, you think? Is it Fitzsimmons? I keep coming back to him. I feel like he might be locked in. Do you think, or do you think there's somebody else?
Yeah, I mean, I think at various points, I think Dallas and Narduzzi both said like he's our most consistent guy. Like when he does a rep, you know what you're getting. So I mean, I think he's pretty close, and he's kind of like the most experienced, which is kind of crazy to say. Like not game experience, but just like he's been around this is his 3rd year already. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I could still talk myself into Isaiah Neal and Anthony Johnson starting. So yeah, I don't know.
I'm excited to see Isaiah Neal this year. I mean, the interview the other day was great, but that was just an interview. But it was, I think he's going to be really, really good. I'm excited to see what he can do and how he plays out there. Nico actually also had a question that we'll get to also. He says, how do you think Rylan Gandy will do this year compared to previous cornerbacks in the Narduzzi era? Is there a guy that he reminds you of? Like body type, playing style? Is there another corner?
He looks like a Pitt cornerback. Like he looks like the type of guy they recruit year after year. So that's kind of been my thought with cornerback. Same thing I had with safety last year. It's like it might be shaky those first couple games, but like by the end of the year, I bet Rylan Gandy's a pretty good player. Like, I think we were saying that about Javon McIntyre and Donovan McMillan last year. It's like, it might be a little rough those first couple games. And I think it was. I think Cincinnati got him for some big plays. But then, like, by the end of the year and, like, now, right, like, going into this season, we're like, oh, those are, like, probably their 2 best players. So, that's kind of where I'm at with Gandy.
It was interesting with Gandy. Like I said, I was watching the end of that Boston College game. And when Boston College got the ball back with, like, a minute and a half or so, they're down by 8 points. Pitt went with the Delta defense, of course, where they have the extra defensive back, and Gandy was the extra guy. It was Marquez Williams and MJ Devonshire at corner, and then Gandy playing that sort of slot nickel role, not AJ Woods or anybody. I don't know if Woods was hurt, but I was like, wow, that's kind of interesting that he's in that role. I mean, next to last game of the season, he's getting playing time in a pretty important spot. I mean, there is only a 1-score game. Boston College had to go a long way, and I don't think they had any timeouts, but sort of a big spot, and I think it spoke to it. I do think, kind of like we were talking earlier, I think there's like a top tier of corners, and I think it's Gandy, obviously, there with Battle and Lynham. And I don't know if anybody, I don't really think anybody from that next group seems to have jumped up to be in that top 4. But it's okay. I think they can go with 3 if that's all that earns it. And then if Crumpley or Bigelow or Anglin, I feel like there's somebody I always forget. Is there anybody else that I'm forgetting there? Shadarian Harrison. If one of those guys earns a spot in a 4-man rotation, great. But if not, I think they'll go with those 3, and I think they'll be fine. I just can't muster up a lot of concern about Pitt cornerbacks, just because they've been so consistent at how they've restocked the position over the years. So I think that's, even if the other starting spot is unsettled, I just not a lot of concern. I feel like it's very reliable. I feel like we just sort of know that Pitt's probably going to have very good cornerbacks, just like everybody knows that home field has really, really quality gear. I think every Pitt fan who's on social media, every Pitt fan who follows this podcast or has watched it over the years knows that homefieldapparel.com, Homefield is the company, makes some of the best Pitt gear that anybody is going to find. I mean, I don't have a home field shirt on right now, unfortunately, or else I demonstrated, but it's every shirt I have that's from home field, and everything you look at on their site at homefieldapparel.com. It's vintage and has a retro look, but it's not something you've seen before. There's a lot of classic Pitt things that you've seen for over and over again. These things, they're like modern reinterpretations with a vintage feel, retro feel, and they're instantly recognizable as Pitt. And they do this for like 80 schools. It's awesome, awesome gear. Some of the best logos and graphics and designs that you're going to find for Pitt stuff. T-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, joggers, hats, koozies, everything that you could possibly want. And I always say there's 2 sides to what makes home field so great is they have great designs and they put them on super high quality materials. So they're really good t-shirts. They're really soft. They hold their shape. I mean, Jim, you're a big t-shirt guy like I am. There's nothing worse than like you have a great shirt, you wash it or dry it a couple times, and all of a sudden it loses its shape. It gets really wide at the bottom or the neck gets stretched. I hate that. Home field doesn't do that. Their shirts really hold their shape and they're super high quality for that regard. Or in that regard. So what we're going to do for you right now is give you a promo code PITT24, PITT24, one word. Use that the first time you shop at homefieldapparel.com or the first time you shop with a new email address at homefieldapparel.com, PITT24, you get 15% off your first order. So PITT24, homefieldapparel.com, 15% off your first order. Jim, do you have any home field gear? I forget. I feel like we've talked about this.
I have a Tulane crew neck.
Nice. Is it a quality shirt?
It is. It's a cool design. It has like a pelican, like riding a wave,
nice.
And yeah, it's a good. Awesome. It's a good shirt. Yeah,
nice and soft, like
very good
soft material. As I've gotten older, I've gained a greater appreciation for soft shirts that have a nice soft feel to them. Big fan. All right. So we start this podcast at 8:30. At 8:01 p.m. Probably our MVP listener, I would say, Josh Newark.
Oh, yeah.
Like as dedicated as anyone, is already posting comments in here at 8:01 p.m. But he's referencing something I don't really know. I have an idea of what he's talking about, but I didn't really observe it myself. So he says, throwing former coaches and players under the bus is nothing new with Pat Narduzzi, but why would Pitt allow that Alliance 412 Zoom to be published on YouTube? And his comments about California being soft and that he was glad to see Cal and Stanford on the schedule. He certainly gave the haters more bulletin board material. Do you know about this, Jim? Do you know what he's talking about?
Yeah. I don't think that was meant for public consumption. I think that was a Alliance 412 members only thing. And I think they did the live chat about 2 weeks ago. Then I think last night or 2 nights ago, they said it's now available in the members portal. But if you can kind of click around on Pitt's YouTube and find it. So I guess he watched it and Pat Narduzzi thought he was talking directly to a couple hundred Pitt fans, but now it's on the internet. So
is this getting a lot of Like I hadn't seen anything or heard anything about this. I apologize if I missed this on the boards or Twitter or someplace. But before Josh mentioned it, it was not on my radar at all. Was this getting much play among the fan base?
I didn't notice anything on the boards today. I mean, so I saw someone like sent me the link. They're like, "Oh wow, this isn't supposed to be on the internet," and it is. I was like, "Yeah, that's interesting."
Did you watch it?
No, I didn't. I talked to Pat Narduzzi enough.
Yeah, it's true. Don't need to hang out with him in the downtime. All right. There's somebody calling themselves Pauly Shore. Jim, do you know who Pauly Shore is?
Like
the Weasel? Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah. I don't think this is actually the Weasel, but it's just he's ranting about something. This is my favorite of his rant comments. Says, there's no way you can tell me after playing the game Pitt doesn't have the most predictable offense and defense you've ever played with. These players deserve so much credit for winning here. So I think he's lobbing a criticism at Pat Narduzzi's offense and defense based on his experience playing the college football video game. Is that how you would read that comment?
Yeah, I think so. I just don't think Pitt's very good in the video game. I think that's what you're running into, Pauly.
Because they were 3-9, right? I mean, anyway. Let's see. Scott Mitchell says there's no scenario at halftime versus a team like Kent State where Eli Holstein doesn't play if I'm making the decision. One possession game, losing, blowout. I want to see how both quarterbacks handle the offense. What's more likely? One quarterback plays the first 3 quarters and another quarterback takes over in the fourth quarter, or they alternate 2 series apiece at least for the first half and then see what happens after that.
I just don't love the whole idea of playing the scheduled 2 quarterbacks. Like I kind of like having resolution going into the season. So I don't know what's more likely. I mean, I think it would make more sense if you're gonna do it, like get them both playing in the first half, and maybe go with a hot hand in the second half, depending on how the game's going. But I don't know. I just kind of like resolution going into the season.
Josh wants to know, do you think Pat Narduzzi is a proactive coach or a reactive coach? What do you think?
That's a good question. I mean, I don't know. How would you answer it? I got to think about this.
I don't know. I mean, it probably depends on what we're talking about. I think there have been things where he's been proactive. I think there have been things where he's done a good job setting Pitt up to succeed by attacking, different things. I think in recruiting, he's done a good job with some proactive things. I think he's largely, I don't think he's fallen behind on too many things. You could make a case. I mean, depending on your perspective, you could say that calling timeout on third down when you're on defense is a proactive move. Although you're doing it to be reactive to see what the offense is showing. Right. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I would have to think about specific examples or circumstances. So I don't really
proactive on defense. They don't really change what they do for anyone. I mean, and I think today he said we blitz 33% of the time, and it's been that way since Michigan State. So I don't know if that's proactive, reactive. Proactive in getting after the quarterback. I don't know.
Yeah. Panther Vision has a question. Was the 2018 team just another 500 season or a much better team and more interesting story? I'm not sure if there's a comparison being made to something else, but I've often wrestled with that 2018 season of, was it a success or a disappointment? A success because they won the Coastal, or a disappointment because they only went 7-7? I mean, I think there were a lot of interesting stories in there. I mean, we've often recounted kind of how that season went. Obviously, disaster against Penn State, a giant mess at North Carolina, a pretty near disaster, an embarrassment, actually. Disaster against Penn State, mess at North Carolina, embarrassment at Central Florida. But then they come back and they beat the high mighty Syracuse, who was ranked. They go out to Notre Dame and almost win. And then they go on a run. Who they beat? Duke, Virginia Tech, Virginia, and Wake Forest. They win 4 in a row to grab the bull by the horns and win the ACC Coastal Division. And I think there were good stories in there. The running, Quadri Olson and Darren Hall. I mean, I think there were good stories in there. Now, They blew it all in the final 3 games. I mean, they were terrible at Miami. They were worse against Clemson, and it was just a disaster in El Paso. So I don't know. It's a conflicting season. And I think however you can choose how you want to view it. I don't know if anyone should really have a gut reaction to that season. I think you choose, like, what do you think it was? I mean, what do you think that season was, Jim?
I think it was a 500 season that was a more interesting 500 season than usual. I mean, just because there was good storylines, like that run at the end of the season. Like, I don't know. I thought the board was like into it. It's like, yeah, Pitt got destroyed by Penn State, lost to Notre Dame, but like, look at them. Like, they're still going after it, and they were playing for something. It was like the first time they ever really like won anything of significance in a conference in a long time. So like, it was like, yeah, I mean, like, so I wrestle with that season too. I mean, like, I think it was good. I think it could have been better. But they did enough to make it it was more noteworthy than the 2019 season. I thought, like, they at least like won something. Like, yeah. I know the other team won 2 more games or 1 more game, whatever. But like, I don't know. 2018 was like more fun.
Yeah. I mean, they both went 7-5 in the regular season. This is what it came down to. And the 2019 season had some miserable games. It didn't have anything like the Penn State game or the UCF or the Carolina game. And in 2019 had had its own UCF game, which was much better, and the Penn State game was far more competitive and all of that. But it also had a just disgusting game against Miami, a disgusting game against Boston College, and damn near lost to Eastern Michigan. To almost go 7-6. Yeah, I mean, so that's that team was hard to say.
Boring to watch. Like, they barely beat Ohio, barely beat Delaware. Like, they were just like they had this great defense, but their offense just was painful.
It was terrible. It was terrible. It was. I think they actually I just looked it up. I think they. No, they still average more points per game than last year's team. 21.2 in 2019, 20.2 last year. The Panther says, tough week for the Panthers, getting voted the 5th worst FBS program in college football by Fox Sports in Pat Narduzzi's 11th year. It's Narduzzi's 10th year. I imagine they were voting them the 5th worst team, although I didn't see that ranking, and I can't imagine that they actually were ranked the 5th worst. But look, when you go 3-9, you don't make that many really notable additions through the transfer portal. Nobody's going to be like, Pitt will probably be pretty good this year. Based on what? They return, like, how many new starters are they going to have on offense? Like 2? And then they lost everybody from defense. They have 9 new starters. Like, what do you expect? Nobody's going to give them respect. Nobody's going to vote them to finish high in the ACC. Nobody's going to vote them in the preseason AP poll. Like, you went 3-9. You stink. You stunk. You have to prove that you don't stink anymore before anybody's going to give you credit. Like, I don't think there should be any more, and there's not too much, but there shouldn't be any like shock or surprise when Pitt doesn't get any credit nationally, right? I mean, they stink. They stunk,
Yeah, I mean, if you're writing about college football and you're trying to fill content, like, you just look at the season prior, and like, that's kind of what you do. And like, so whenever like a guy like Big Game Boomer on Twitter says like the worst football team or Fox Sports, their little hit piece or whatever, like, that's what they're basing it off of. And like, that's it. Like, who the ranked teams are, and like, everyone else stinks, and like, they're not going to get any credit for it. So, I mean, I don't really I'm not too worried about the Fox Sports poll of this year saying it's the 5th worst team. Like, they deserve it. They walked in the mud last year. They deserve it.
Yep. Ryan says, I think our skill positions are good. Our wideouts seem to be good. Mumfield should be unguardable. Poppy and Kenny seem legit. Reynolds is good depth. Gavin is great. Running backs seem good. I'm generally like, if like 100 is the most excited, 0 is the least, 50 is like perfectly fine. I'm 55 to 62 on the skill guys, slightly bullish, but there's a lot of unknowns, right? Because there's a lot of guys we haven't seen yet.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about, when he mentioned there's 5 wide receivers that they're comfortable playing. 2 of them we don't know anything about. One of the 2 running backs we don't know anything about. They have this tight end that we think is good, but he never gets the ball. So, like, I don't know. I mean, I think they have good pieces. I think a good quarterback would be able to spread the ball, and I think these guys can make plays. Like, we saw Kenny Johnson. Like, the kid can run. Dejon Reynolds, he made tough catches across the middle. Like, the opportunities last year were just so far few between that I don't know. It's like hard to get like super excited about them, but like I'm also not down on them either.
Yeah. Now, the Panther says, I think Pat Narduzzi would be doing this team a disservice to start Nate Yarnell over Eli Holstein. This offense desperately needs a running quarterback to succeed. I'm still reserving judgment to see if Nate or Eli Holstein is a running quarterback. I need to actually see him run around to get a sense of how good of a runner he is. I think he has some athleticism, maybe some sneaky athleticism, but I need to actually see that first. Better question here. Josh Newark wants to know, will Eli Holstein win the job because he outperforms Nate Yarnell or because the team loses games? Jim, what's more likely to happen? Eli Holstein is the starter because he wins the job in camp, or he's the starter because Yarnell holds on to the job, but then stinks out the joint and Holstein takes over? What's a more likely scenario in your view?
I could see a performance base, like even if they're winning games, but like Nate's not doing everything correctly. I mean, they have to be scarred a little bit from last year. Like they have to not like necessarily have a quick trigger about the quarterback, but they need to be like ready to make a move when it's obvious they need to make the move. You can't just sit on it for 3 games and hope it gets better. So, I mean, I think it's not going to be like the old Steve Spurrier, you throw an interception, you're out. I don't think it's going to be anything like that. But, like, I don't know. I think they're going to be more willing to try something different if the first guy's not succeeding.
Ryan says, are you more confident or less confident in the team so far after camp compared to when camp started? What's your overall, how has your overall perception changed, Jim, or has it changed?
It hasn't changed a ton. I mean, I think I've been saying about 7-5 since, I don't know, June. So, I mean, that's kind of still where I am. I mean, you go to camp and it's like every year. It's like spring training in baseball. Like everyone's excited. Everyone feels good. This offense is going to work. We're just, we put in the work. We're going to be so much better this year. And that's what everyone says. So, like, I don't know. I've seen this song and dance. I don't. Maybe I'm jaded just for doing this for a couple of years, but like, I don't know. It's like everyone's always upbeat in camp, and like that's the vibe right now. And I get it. Like, there's these new coaches. They're young. They're energetic, and they breathe life in this program, and that's great. But you still have to go out and win games. So I mean, I think the energy in the building is pretty good. I don't know if I've changed my tune because the energy in the building is any good. I don't know. I still think they're going to be better than last year, but I don't think they're quite ready to compete at the top of the ACC.
Yeah, I don't know if my predictions on the team or expectations have changed. I think there are some spots that I feel better about than I did, like the defensive tackles. Like I didn't have a great feel for those guys coming into training camp. Now I'm getting kind of bullish on that group. I think my whatever hype level or whatever for the outside linebackers, even though it was already kind of high, I think has gone up even more. I think I feel a little more confident about the corners than I did. And I'm even I'm buying in on the Western Carolina guys, on Desmond Reed and Poppy Williams and CJ Lee. Like I'm buying in on those guys maybe a little bit more than I did. Although I feel like that was in progress over the course of the summer. We just kept getting bored and talking ourselves into Desmond Reed being really good. So, and it might actually end up being the case, but I feel like that's been a long time coming. It's been in progress. But yeah, the team overall, I'm more or less in the same place as I was, but maybe some individual spots. Maybe some individual spots have changed for me. Our old friend RJ Seaman is back as a super chatter. RJ Seaman, good to see you. Says, what will it take to call this season a success? What offensive rank? I mean, like, if you just want to talk about offensive production, I think 28 points per game would be a good, successful offense. And I think if they score 28 points per game, they'll win 8 games. And so maybe that's my barometer. Would you say, like, period, point blank, no context added, if they win 8 games, the season's a success?
Yes.
Okay. Is there I said it, I think if they score 28 points per game, if they average 28 points per game on offense, I think they'll win 8 games. Would you set a number like that?
I could buy in that because, like, going back to that last question a little bit is, like, I am starting to buy into the, like, they're probably going to be good on defense. Like, I think there's just enough talent, and that I really think those coaches are good. So maybe my perception has changed that I just have a little bit more faith that the defense will probably figure it out by the end of the year and be pretty good. So I think 8 wins would be a success. I think 28 or more points a game would be a success. I don't know what I forget what they were in like total offense last year. It was like 112.
That was awful. Yeah, I mean, I think they were in the hundreds for points and yards per game.
It might be 119 or something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, if they could even like get to like the 60s in those things, you know what I mean? Like, still not even necessarily be good, but be that much better than last year, I think could make a huge difference.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that would, it's not, it's not a huge, like, you don't have to be like number 3 in the country in scoring like they were in 2021. If you can just get to 28, 29, 30 points per game, I think you can give yourself a chance to win a whole lot of games, and I think if you can hold opponents to 25 points per game or less, then you can probably win 8 games. I think that's a pretty good target to shoot for. Of course, somebody who's really good at giving people targets to shoot for is our friend Chris Gates. Today's show, as always, sponsored by the Online Fitness Training Camp, presented by Chris Gates Fitness. Training Camp's an online fitness community designed specifically for sports fans to help you get results with your health and fitness without cutting out everything you love, like drinking beer, tailgating for football games in the fall. In Training Camp with Chris Gates, you'll get all the support you need to build muscle, burn fat, and stay consistent with your workouts. And at the same time, you'll instantly join a community of like-minded people doing the same thing. With Chris as your coach, you'll get top-notch guidance. In addition to being a massive Pitt football fan, Chris has been coaching people online since 2018, and his clients consistently get results by implementing a flexible approach to diet and exercise. So if you're interested in getting brand new workout programs every month so you can achieve your health and fitness goals, if you're interested in fitness challenges every month to help you push to develop healthy habits, if you're interested in challenges within the training camp community like weekly football pick'em, where you get to compete with other members and score awesome prizes, if you're interested in access to live Q&As where you can get direct personalized support from Chris with your health and fitness, if you're interested in the support of a community of people there to encourage you every step of the way, visit chrisgatesfitness.com/training camp, or you can go to our page, chrisgatesfitness.com/Panther-Lair. Use the promo code Panther-Lair, and you'll get a discount on your first month of online fitness coaching with Chris Gates. You got to go check it out. chrisgatesfitness.com/Panther-Lair. All right, get a few more questions in here and see where we're at. Scroll down. I got through a bunch of these. Wait. I thought there was another one I wanted to get to here. Moving it around here. Here, Nico P says, how are the offensive tackles looking? Branson Taylor's been very mid. Ryan Baer wasn't great last year, but he was young and he has high upside. We need them to be great this year. I think with Taylor and Baer, my thoughts are this. One, I think they're both pretty good, and I think they'll both be good this year. I don't know if Branson Taylor has developed as much as the coaches had hoped he would by this point. I think they were hoping he'd be further along in his development, but that just leaves the door open for it to happen this year. Ryan Baer last year as a redshirt freshman was his first year as a starter. Even some of the best offensive linemen who've come through Pitt did not do a great job their first year as a starter. Dorian Johnson was a disaster the first year he stepped into the starting lineup. Adam Bizdavati struggled his first year. Brian O'Neill was pretty good right off the bat. I don't think Ryan Baer was bad last year. I think he had some false starts and things like that. But I think the talent is there. I think he looks like he's in great shape. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to be a really good right tackle. And then I think next year he'll move to left tackle. And I think he'll be the anchor of this offensive line. So I'm pretty optimistic about those two guys. What about you, Jim?
I feel the same way. I mean, I think Ryan Baer is going to be a really good player. The one thing I always take note of at practice is like, who are the NFL scouts watching? Like what position group are they trailing? They seem to be watching the offensive linemen a lot. And that suggests to me that Branson Taylor's on the radar. So Pitt's had a lineman drafted 2 straight years, a tackle. I think there's a chance he could be the third. I mean, I think he needs to, play better than he did last season. But I mean, he's a big dude. He's athletic. He has great feet. He was a basketball player in high school. Those are all those kind of things like scouts look for. So whenever you see guys with a Washington Commanders shirt on and scribbling things down, you kind of tend to notice who they're watching, and they've been watching Branson Taylor a lot.
You said you feel like he He'll be a draft pick, you think?
I think with a good year, I think that frame's huge. I mean, he's 6'6",
Yeah.
he has good feet. Like, I think he just needs to like polish a few things up. But like, I think the athleticism's there to play in the NFL.
I'd love to hear from Narduzzi or somebody how they would compare like Carter Warren or by the end of his time at Pitt with Branson Taylor, kind of heading into this season. I mean, Carter Warren got drafted. I feel like he missed a ton of games. Well, he played a lot. I mean, I shouldn't say he missed a ton of games. He missed a bunch of games in his final season. But I wonder how they compare, how much further ahead Warren is Warren was compared to where Taylor is right now. Elsewhere, like, I'm thinking about next year's draft, right? Donovan McMillan, you feel like he's pretty much a lock to get drafted?
He would have to like take a real big step back this year, and I'm not expecting that. I mean, I think he's like, of all the safeties at Pitt lately, like he's the biggest, most put together out of all of them. So I think he can play in the NFL.
Who else? Kanate Mumfield?
I would think so. I mean, I think Gavin Bartholomew was like on like the Senior Bowl watch list, and usually whenever you're on that, then you're kind of on the radar. So you kind of look at guys like that. So I could buy Mumfield and Bartholomew, McMillan, Taylor. That's kind of it.
Yeah. Not like I'm trying to think of even other guys who would be eligible. Like, I'm guessing Javon McIntyre won't come back. I don't know.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel like he was in the 21 recruiting class. So, and I think he redshirted, right? So he would have another year of eligibility. He wasn't with the, they had their position dinners this week, and they had all the guys go out with their position coaches. They go out to dinner, except the seniors all go out with Narduzzi. Javon McIntyre, I think, was still with the defensive backs, which would kind of imply that he's not going to come back. PJ O'Brien is a senior. PJ O'Brien didn't redshirt. Right. So he was with the seniors, so that makes sense. Rashad Battle was with the seniors. Could he? I mean, he's got great size, right? Rashad Battle, if he has a great senior season,
he just maybe needs to play more than one game in a row,
Yeah, that's a big thing for him for sure. Ryan thinks Nate Matlack will get drafted. Ryan says Matlack drafted, gonna have a big year. He's gonna have to have a big year to even get on the radar for NFL scouts. I would think he's gonna need to have a huge year. I'm not saying it can't happen, but what like over under 6.5 sacks for Nate Matlack this year?
I could see him being in that like eight range, maybe, like because he's gonna be the featured pass rusher. He's gonna be on the field. So I mean, I think if he has less than 6, it'd be a little disappointing. And I mean, I think that's kind of what we kind of said about some guys last year too. It's like, yeah, you're on the field a lot, you're getting all this great pressure, but you got to kind of finish the play sometimes. So he's going to have every opportunity to get 8-9 sacks because he's going to be on the field a lot. Because we already talked, there's only 4 defensive ends that are even capable of like playing this year. It's seemingly.
I might have to adjust that number then. We'll have to put together our over-unders. Remember we did that last year? Over-unders heading into the Pitt season. There were some funny we were going over this the other day. There were some really good lines and then some that were like way out of whack. Everybody I think it was like Phil Dracovic over under 9.5 games played. Everybody took over on that one. And that's one that stood out. There were a few others that were funny about how the result. RJC man though, super chatting again. We appreciate you, sir. Says Nate needs to be quarterback for team unity and 6 OCs in 10 seasons. Bell is unproven P3 level. For the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 8 words there. Nate needs to be quarterback for team unity. You know what creates team unity, Jim?
Winning.
Wins. So if Nate Yarnell can get Pitt to win, then yes, he should be the quarterback for team unity. If he's not the guy who's going to get wins, then he's not the guy. I mean, like you have to go with the guy who's going to help you to win. This should be an easy over-under. Josh Newark says Gavin Bartholomew, El Barto, over under 2 catches per game. I'll make it a little more challenging, 2.5. I'll set it at 2.5.
So I was writing about him the other day, and I went back and looked. No Pitt tight end has ever had 100 career receptions. He's at 67, so he needs 33 to get the 100 mark.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
That's crazy. No Pitt. How did you even find this?
I just went like all-time receptions leaders and looked if they were receivers or tight ends. So it was a little tedious of a task.
Yeah, I would say. Wow, JP Holtz only caught 81 passes. No kidding.
So I don't know. I mean, do you think he can catch 33 passes? His career high is 28, which obviously happened as a freshman. Can he get 33? Can he have 100 career receptions?
He better catch 33 passes. Like if they don't throw him, if he doesn't have it, if he doesn't get enough targets to catch 33 passes, and this offense is going to snap the ball every 12 seconds, then it's a major failure. He better catch 30. He better catch 35.
So the answer is the over to Josh's question.
So what? 2.5? What would 2.5 be? That would be what? 26, 33, 30. Oh, okay. That's what you just said. 33, 34. I was looking up how many catches Mike Ditka had, so I missed what you said there.
How many did Mike have?
It was only like 40 some.
Okay.
45. Yeah, he got 18, 16, and 11. According to Sports Reference, college football, it is stats for him from 3 seasons.
Yeah, that's what I was using. EJ did give me the physical hard copy of the media guide. I might just kind of dive into that tonight.
This is so good to have. Like, this is so
I didn't get one the past like 3 seasons.
Oh, it's so nice. I just sit here and I'm just like, what do you want to tell me? Tell me things. Tell me things. And it's so magical to have a physical copy. Oh, I love it. What were we talking about? So what about you? Over under 2.5 catches. What do you say? Per game.
Okay. Yeah, over. I think he's going to get the 100 career catch mark.
Over under 4.5 touchdowns for Alberto.
See, we're already starting the over-unders too early. I'm not mentally prepared for this just yet. I need like a full episode of this.
We'll do this like next week or game week. We'll do it the Kent State game. One of the next 2 we'll do it. But I'm giving you the early numbers so that when I forget what these numbers were next time, you can remind me. 4.5 touchdowns.
I'm buying into the Bartholomew train, so over. So
yes, 30. He's going to catch 38 passes and 7 touchdowns. Is what his stat line is going to be. That's what I'm saying.
I can buy it. Or he has like another like 18 catches for 321 yards and 2 touchdowns like last year. But
shut up. You shut your damn mouth about what he's gonna do, Jim. Don't put that devil on Alberto. All right, you let him succeed and excel as he should.
His mullet's great this year.
Oh, it's fantastic. Josh Norris says Alberto caught 18 last year. Is that right?
I think so. 18.
Did he only have?
Yeah.
He only had 18. Yeah. Oh, because he got hurt. He only played 10 games. 28, 21, and 18. But he got 28? Oh, yeah. I guess he was 28 of 29. I know he had like only 1 target he didn't catch in 2021. He must have been 28 of 29. But look, just got to give him the ball. See what happens. But all right. Let's see. I think that about wraps it up. I'll be down at training camp tomorrow, so we'll have lots of coverage from that. And, of course, more videos right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Tell your friends about the live stream. We always have a good time. It's a lot of fun every Wednesday night at 8:30. So make sure you tune in for that right here at youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com. Like this video and subscribe so you never miss any of our Pitt video content. And then go check out the website, Panther-Lair.com, Pittsburgh.rivals.com. Jim, thanks so much for your time tonight. Thanks, everybody, coming in the chat. It was a lot of fun, as always. Have a great night. We'll catch up with you tomorrow for the morning pit and another live stream next Wednesday night. Maybe we'll do the over-unders either next week or the week after. We'll see. Depends on when I can write them all out. The kids start school again next week, so I'll have more time to waste on things like over-unders. So that'll be something to look forward to. But, all right, thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch up with you next week right here, youtube.com/Panther-Lair.com.